something else that I wanted to get to, as you mentioned. So with the recent confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court a few days ago, and also not to mention you are also a strong supporter of the Affordable Care Act. So do you believe that with the confirmation of Ms. Barrett to the Supreme Court, do you believe that the ACA is in danger of being overruled? And if that is the case, how will you assure folks in the district that they will have affordable health insurance?
Well, it's certainly a concern that we have. Right now, as we speak, that case is before the Supreme Court, and they're going to be hearing that case shortly. And now Judge Barrett will be sitting on that court with a 6-3 majority. That bill, when we passed it, my committee helped write that bill. I'm very proud of it. We brought insurance to 20 million Americans who didn't have insurance. But more importantly, we ended the practice of insurance companies discriminating against sick people. A lot of insurance companies will say, well, we'll cover you for everything except that one thing that makes you sick, a pre-existing condition. We made it possible that insurance companies couldn't factor that in. More importantly, too, the caps in insurance. All these policies used to have annual caps and lifetime caps on how much they would pay. And a good example would be if you had a child with cancer and you had to buy very expensive treatments for the cancer treatments. Once you hit that annual cap, the insurance companies didn't pay anymore. So you'd see these families that had insurance holding like fundraisers, fish fries, to raise money so that they could continue their children's cancer treatments. We put an end to all of that. We knew when we wrote the bill it was going to need some work, that a lot of things would happen with the bill that maybe were unforeseen, and that we could make changes along the way. Unfortunately, the Republicans never wanted to work with us to help improve the bill. They just wanted to repeal the bill. And the problem is they never had a replacement for the bill. And to this day, President Trump talks about this wonderful health insurance plan of his that's going to lower everyone's premium and cover everything, except we've never seen the plan because they don't have one. So if the Supreme Court tries to strike down the Affordable Care Act, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board, and we're going to have to go quickly and make sure that we cover people, and that's going to be very important. So we're going to wait and see what happens. My hope is that they don't strike down the bill, but we'll see what happens.
So why do you think Republicans have been, because ever since this was signed into law by President Obama, Republicans have been very, very critical of the bill. Why do you think Republicans have been very critical of this bill ever since it was signed into law? Excuse me.
Well, that's a good question. I think part of it was just because it was President Obama's bill. We tried to work with the Republicans. I sat on the committee that wrote the bill. We made concession after concession to Republicans trying to write a bipartisan bill that everybody could get behind. We didn't think healthcare should have been a partisan issue. That the fact that there were so many millions of Americans that didn't have insurance in the richest country in the world just struck us as crazy. And that the insurance industries, in order to increase their profits, these are for-profit companies for the most part, we're using exclusionary tactics basically to say, we only want to insure healthy people. Those are the people we'll give good premiums to. But if you're sick or you have a chronic condition, we don't want you in our risk pool. So they look for ways to exclude sick people. We just thought that wasn't right. And so part of the real thrust behind the Affordable Care Act was to end that practice. Now, I don't want to suggest that, Republicans favor insurance companies, but insurance companies have a big lobby in Washington, D.C., and they predominantly favor the Republican Party because they like those policies that enable them to keep unhealthy people out of their risk pool because that maximizes their profits. So I don't know why they wouldn't work with us. And the other thing, I always said, if the Republicans had a better bill, put it on the floor and let's vote on it. And this was during a period of time when they controlled the House of Representatives. They could have put a health care bill on the floor anytime they wanted. But you know, the one time they tried to put something together, they couldn't even get their own members to vote for it, and the public rejected it. So I just think it's a little hypocritical for Republicans to say that, you know, the ACA is a horrible bill and that it's a disaster, and they've never, ever offered an alternative to the ACA, because here's what they know. When you have to cover everyone, regardless of their health, it does get more expensive. And that's why we had the factor where everyone had to participate. Almost like car insurance. You're not allowed to drive a car in Pennsylvania, or I don't believe any other state, without car insurance. And how does car insurance work? Good drivers end up paying for bad drivers sometimes, right? We all pay premiums. Some of us never have an accident. But when that one person has a serious accident, there's money in that risk pool to pay for that person. Well, the same concept behind the ACA, that healthy people were going to pay premiums, and that they wouldn't utilize the healthcare system as much because they don't have a chronic condition or something terrible doesn't happen to them. But it makes sure there's enough money to take care of people that do. I would much rather pay premiums and never have to use the healthcare than have cancer or you know, have something that causes me to be a chronic user of healthcare. And that's all we were trying to do. And we knew we'd have to tweak it along the way. Unfortunately, we couldn't find partners in the Republican Party. And here we are today in the middle of a pandemic, and the President of the United States is trying to kill a healthcare bill that would leave 20 million people without insurance in the middle of a pandemic. I just think it's absolutely incredible.
But what would you have to say to people who are maybe are critical of the bill because their premiums are too high?
Well, that's one of the things we wanted to be able to work on. You know, in the House bill, we had a public option too, that would give people a way to opt into a public program that would be a little bit cheaper and would force some competition with some of the private insurance companies. Unfortunately, we passed the public option in the House version of the ACA, but it was taken out in the Senate version, and the final product didn't have a public option. One of the things that Vice President Biden wants to do, if he's elected president, is to improve the ACA and to add a public option, which will give a little competition to the private sector and help, we think, reduce healthcare costs. So it's something we want to work on. We want the insurance to be affordable for everyone, but we want to make sure that everyone gets covered and that there's no condition that you have that an insurance company can say, we're not going to cover that because it costs too much money. That's just not right. That's just not who we are as Americans. Everybody has a right to health care insurance, and no private insurance company in search of profits should be able to say we don't want to cover sick people.